Hello, and welcome back to, well, I guess it's me that's welcome back. You're welcome back too. Finally, at long last, I thought it was time to do a little bit of a video talking about the progress so far in terms of transition. So I guess this is part 4. So I finally, today, just a couple of hours ago, I went and I got my very first injection of anti-androgen or hormone blockers, testosterone blockers. So, to sum up the whole history, and I also got my blood stolen for a little bit. That was actually more painful than the injection of hormone. Anyway, very long story, short-ish. A few months ago, I sent in my first blood tests. So, I've been on hormone treatment now for about 5 months. And 2 months ago, I sent in my tri-monthly blood tests results. And my testosterone levels were too high. I guess I'm just too darn manly. Just too gosh darn manly still, as you can plainly tell. My testosterone was too high. My estrogen was fine. My blood pressure was fine. It still is. But I was taking finasteride as a hormone testosterone suppressant pill. I was taking 5 milligrams a day every morning. It turns out, though, that wasn't enough. So I haven't really seen or noticed much of a change yet, which is probably due to the testosterone. So I sent my blood test results back to my doctor in England, the Gender GP people, and they said, we would like to revise your medication because you're not getting a noticeable result yet. And I think the pills are what you would start at because it's probably the most easiest thing for your system to deal with because it's not very strong, and it's also easy to ship because it's just a pill that you take. You don't need any specific instructions or special know-how or prescriptions other than you're supposed to have this, here you go, gulp, gulp. So I am now using injections. Hooray! But to get to that point was a whole trip and a half and then some. Okay, so here's the thing. Because my doctor in England, the Gender GP people, needed to send me an injection, I had to have someone who could administer this locally. So either medically trained family members, medical staff, anyone with medical know-how had to help with the injection and preparation of the substance. Because it comes in 2 things. It comes in 2 vials. I think one is like a solution liquid and one is a powder or another, it's another thing. And they're like, I guess, inert or something. And then they mix them and it becomes active, but then you have to like use it or it'll go sour. I guess it'll go all sour and I'll get all like clumpy. You don't want to put that in your bin because it's gonna stink up the whole kitchen. It's a lot like milk in that sense. But anyway, so I contacted the clinic that I had been going to for laser hair removal, and I asked them, can you help me with injections? Because they have nurses and doctors and surgeons there. I mean, that's where I got my eyelids surged. So I asked them, can you help with injections? Is that a possibility? To which they said, yeah, that shouldn't be an issue. Just let us know what the substance is and why you're supposed to have it, which is understandable. They need everything for legal purposes and everything in my journal, whatever. So I contacted the English people again, and I had them send a big 12-page PDF with all of the medical jargon for the substance and what it is used for. And there's even a 2.5 page step-by-step with pictures instructions on how to prepare it and how to inject it and how to do all of the things. And there's a cute little picture of a little butt. Luckily, the proportions weren't correct, so I sent that to this clinic, the beauty clinic that I've been going to, and they said that their head doctor would have to approve it. Fair enough. And then a week went by, and I heard nothing back. So I contacted them, and they said that it had been forwarded to the head physician, but he was on vacation. So now we are 2 and some weeks into trying to get them to say yes or no, just anything. And they didn't say anything at all. So I went there physically on a regularly scheduled visit for laser treatment. And they asked me, has anyone told you anything about injections yet? To which I said, no. You're the one that was supposed to do that, though. So I think you would know, I thought to myself, but didn't vocalize out loud. So I kind of gave up on them, and I contacted my normal GP, my normal doctor, my normal healthcare clinic place that I go to get blood tests done, that I actually went to in the very beginning, a year and a half ago, when I started talking to a therapist about the whole transition process. So I asked them, can you help me with injections? And they said, maybe. We could maybe do that, I guess. Unless it's illegal in Sweden, which is understandable. Going to the clinic and telling the doctors, hey, would you mind terribly injecting me with a bit of drugs? I swear it's all fine. I totally need it. So I get that they need to check. Problem is, for some reason, they don't have an email address. Now, I can understand this for doctor-patient confidentiality, blah, 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 that they can't just set up a Gmail account and guarantee that being 100% private. But you'd think that there'd be some sort of email in general with that caveat, right? They could just have like a little thing on their website, info@blah-blah-blah.se, and then you could send general inquiries there, but then they could have, no, please note, this email is not secure. We cannot guarantee the privacy of messages within this. Whatever. Just have something. It's 2021. You'd think having an email address would be doable, but no. They only had those, you know, those forms that you fill out on the website, like contact us forms, and you write your name and email address and the little message, and you hit send, and it goes presumably to an email address or an email client of some sort. So that didn't really work. I couldn't send them. I needed to send them the materials for the injections, like my prescription and the description of what the substance was, so that they could say yes or no. So I contacted the British people again and then said, they need proof, they need something to corroborate and verify that I'm supposed to have this and it's safe and it's prescribed by a doctor. So the British people sent me a thing saying, yes, this is the patient, this is what they're supposed to have, and this is what we need from you. And they had, there was this paper with 4 lines. It was name, profession, email, and date. And they wanted my doctor here, the local doctor, to fill that out so I could send that back to the British people. And the British people don't have an email either. Both of them only have the forms on their website that you fill out. So I couldn't email this paper to the local doctor, and I couldn't tell the local doctor to contact the British doctor because none of them had any form of communication. So I now had two parties that needed to corroborate and check with each other with no means of actually doing that. Luckily, I do own a printer. I haven't used it in a year, and I think I've used it to print 2 papers ever. But I plugged it in and I held my thumbs and it worked. So I had to print out this PDF, bring it to the clinic, which is, you know, a 20-minute bus ride into town, bring it there, hand it over to them and say, explain the whole situation and go, please, can you fill this in? I just need my doctor to sign this and say, yes, I am a doctor. We will help. And then I went off and I came back 2 hours later and asked if I could have my papers back, please. And they said, no, we need to keep them until tomorrow because the doctor that needed to sign them wasn't there anymore, I think, or I hadn't had time. So I went back home and then I went back in again the following day. And I was handed this paper with the 4 lines and it said the name of the doctor, good. It said the profession, barely. You'd think if it's going to a clinic that they would maybe spell it out to make sure that there are no errors or miscommunications. No. And then the line that said email address, they had just skipped. Surely there's an internal email between doctors that they could provide the British doctors with for doctor-to-doctor contact, right? You'd think. So I brought the paper back with me home and I scanned it in. Well, actually, I was gonna scan it in, but I got lazy and I didn't want to re-plug in the scanner printer combo. So I took a picture of the paper with my phone and I sent that to the British people. And about an hour later, I got a message back from them saying, with a little cropped out screenshot of the chicken scratch line saying, could you please help us interpret this? Because we can't really read what it says. Is it Swedish? It was Swedish, but that wasn't the reason for them being unable to read it, because I couldn't read it. But I gave it my best interpretation based on context, and I think that was their conclusion as well, because they okayed it. So at long last, after a couple of weeks, if not a month of back and forth, just to get someone to say yes or no, I finally got the approval and I finally paid the £500, mind you, to have the injections sent. It's just a little box. It's just one injection. It's not like I'm stocking up to last me 10 years. It's one shot. And you do one every 3 months. So this will last for a while, which is great. And it's into the butt muscle. So it goes straight in your body, doesn't have to filter through any organs, which is really good for your body. That sounded way more sarcastic than I meant. It is. Taking pills has to go through your stomach, your digestion system, and it has to filter through the liver. So the more pills of any kind you take, the more you're sort of beating your liver a bit. Once I actually had the medication delivered, shockingly, it only took 2 days to get an appointment. And I went in with my little bag, with my little box in, with all my papers, and I got sent into this very lovely, very, very helpful and very cheerful and very inquisitive nurse called Johanna, if you're watching this for some reason. And she was very nice and very explaining thoroughly what they were going to do. And apparently had some experience with this, mostly injecting testosterone into people's butts and not so much untestosterone, but at least knowing, you know, recognizing the process and mixing of the substance. And honestly, it didn't hurt. I was expecting, apparently if you get the testosterone, like the reverse injection basically, if you're getting the testosterone, that liquid is thicker. It's more syrupy, and this was more watery, which is why that one hurts more and this one didn't. But other than that, it went well. So that was a nice sort of bookend to the whole process of getting this atoll. Other than that, though, I've been going to laser hair removal now 6 times, and I have noticed 0 results, which I think is because I have too light of a hair color. My beard growth is a little sort of strawberry blonde, reddish, kind of lighter tone. And if you don't know, when you do laser hair removal, the laser targets pigmentation, which is why like black or dark brown hair on white skin is the easiest to remove. So I had no effect, at least not any noticeable effect at all to me personally. And I looked around instead, and I found this one place in town that does electrolysis, which is taking a tiny needle, poking it in at the hair, zapping it with a little electric shock to kill the follicle, and then pulling the hair out for each individual hair. And I've been now for 2 sessions at 1 hour apiece, 2 hours total, and we've covered this patch once. So there's a bit to go, and that'll have to be repeated, and it hurts. It hurts if you've pulled out a hair. You know what that feels like. But now imagine doing that, but also stabbing it with a needle and electrocuting it first, and then doing that for an hour on your face. It is, however, 100% effective. No matter what, like hair color, hair type, hair placement, you are manually treating and killing each individual hair. So at least once that's done, it's done. But man, it's not a comfortable process, this is. It's gonna be worth it though. It's gonna be very worth it. So that is where I am at now. And all this to say, not a lot has happened. It is now, which is great. I'm also gonna grow out my hair more on the sides, which is why it's a little poofy right now. I wanna look like Ashley Johnson. So anyway, what's new with you?